Right, the big fight is tonight in boxing. In the heavyweight division, we've got Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. I never thought I'd be saying that. But we've got it. It's here. This is the predictions video. I will just do a quick apology. My phone broke, so that's why I didn't cover the UFC last week. And I know it was the last one of the year. It's pointless me reviewing it now. My phone smashed. It went all black. I had pixels all over it. I only got my phone back a couple of days ago, and I've been trying to get my YouTube, my accounts on every social media platform and all that, and I had to set the actual phone up itself. It took a while because I'm not amazing at doing it, so I needed some help. But yeah, we're here now. We're covering Jake Paul v Anthony Joshua, the predictions fight. Let's get into it. So you know how we do it on the channel. We talk about one guy, and then we talk about the other. And then at the end, I give my predictions. So we're going to jump straight into it with Jake Paul. Jake Paul, former Disney star, former YouTuber, turned to boxing, and he's now a professional boxer. If you like it or not, Jake Paul is a professional boxer. He's been doing it for 6-7 years. I think it's 6. It's rather 6 or 7. But people are going, he's not a boxer. I think he is a boxer because if he's been doing it for that many years, it's in any job or any title or whatever you do. If you've been doing something for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years or whatever, you do that to what the title is. I don't even know, if you were a bricklayer, a roofer, or an engineer or whatever, if you did it for that long, you are classed as what your job title is. You are a roofer, a bricklayer, an engineer. You are that thing. So I think Jake Paul is a boxer. I think he has every right to be a boxer. Why can't he? Because he was from YouTube, because he was from the Disney Channel, So he can't be a boxer because he's done other things in his life? No, I think that's wrong. I think Jake Paul deserves respect. The way he's done this whole boxing career, completely different. But he's built his platform outside of boxing. He's brought it into boxing. He's got so many eyes watching boxing. I mean, what Jake Paul has done for the women's divisions in boxing is incredible. Having the first ever all-women's card, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano 3, put on Netflix. And that was an amazing card. Great card. Loved it. I'd love them to do another one, MVP Promotions, another thing. They're getting young talent, putting them on these cards. They're giving these young guys who are prospects the big platforms on the big stage and all that. So Jake Paul's not bad for boxing at all. Yes, some of his fights, I will say, are a bit weird, but, it is what it is. It is, if you like or not, Jake Paul is good for boxing. But yeah, we'll go on to some of his stats and his record and his resume and all that. But 12-1, with 7 KOs. That's a decent record for a prospect, I'd like to say, for a person who's still coming into their boxing career. But his wins. So this is where it gets a bit weird, and this is where I get people like to slate on him, like to hate and disagree. So his first fight was against a YouTuber called Aneeson Gibb. Gibb was debuting in that, beat him. He fought a basketball player. I don't know the basketball player's name. That was his pro debut as well against Jake. Ben Askren. Now this is where we're changing a little bit. Ben Askren is an MMA fighter who is mainly a wrestler in MMA, but making his pro debut. Tyron Woodley, mainly a wrestler in MMA, but also Woodley can strike. He has power. We've seen Woodley put people's lights out before. Also pro debut. Then he fights Woodley again. Once again, MMA fighter. But Woodley's then 0-1 in boxing. He's lost. He's only had one fight and he's lost it. Beat him. So he's currently on a 5-fight win streak. Then he fights Anderson Silva. And now this is where it starts to change even a little bit more. So Anderson Silva is an MMA fighter. But he has also fought in boxing before. He was 3-1 as a boxer. And, that's a winning record. That is a winning record. Anderson Silva's no pushover. in my opinion. I think Anderson Silva's a very good boxer. But Jake beat him, so he's on a 6-fight win streak. Now he comes up against his biggest test in boxing. Against a boxer, Tommy Fury, 8-0. And Jake Paul loses his first fight, but you're 6-1. You know, that's no shame in that. For Tommy Fury being a lifetime boxer and Jake Paul for only doing it at this point in time. For a couple of years, you lost on a split decision, getting a knockdown. Yes, I know it was a slip, but it was a punch what caused the slip. It was a knockdown. He didn't do too bad to get a split decision. And this is one thing I will just say now. People say his fights are rigged. You know, they're not real. They're all scripted. No, because why would you script yourself to lose your biggest fight at that point in your career? You wouldn't. That was the fight for Jake Paul to shut up the naysayers, to, you know, be like, look, I am a boxer. I've just beaten a boxer. But he didn't. He lost. That's why I don't think his fights are rigged. It would have made no sense for Jake Paul to rig his own fight to lose, would it? It would have made no sense. So at this point, he is 6-1. Then he goes back to an MMA fighter in Nate Diaz. And we all know Nate Diaz is a good boxer inside the octagon, but he's also making his pro debut in boxing. Now this is once again where it starts changing a little bit. He goes against two boxers in a row. Boxers no one's ever heard of. You know, Andre August, 10-1. I know he won the Golden Gloves tournament only because of Jake Paul giving him the limelight. Knocks him out in the first round. The other guy, I don't even know his name. 17-2. That's pretty good, to be fair. You've had a step up. You've gone from 10-1 with a guy to 17-2. Knocked him out in the first or second round. Then you go to Mike Perry, who was an MMA fighter turned into a bare-knuckle boxer with a winning record in bare-knuckle. I'm pretty sure he's still undefeated. You beat him. Now this is where it gets super weird. Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, yes. Jake Paul has fought Mike Tyson professionally. Mike Tyson was 50-6, nearly 60 years old. I think he was like 58 or 57. And yeah, Jake beat him on points. Weren't fixed. People going, oh, it was fixed. Mike Tyson could have beat him. No, he couldn't. Reality. Mike Tyson was nearly 60. Jake is late 20s, but, you know, he was 27 at the time. Jake just danced around him. Didn't really do much. Very boring fight. Jake just danced around him. That was it. Mike Tyson's legs weren't there. The body's slower to react. That's it. Then he fought Julio Chavez Jr., 54-6 and 1 as a boxer. That's a really good record. And Jake beat him. So Jake is 12-1 with, you know, a questionable resume, but at the same time, they've all been big names. Everyone's been interested. If we're a boxing fan, you've all watched him, or you've at least watched half of his fights as he's been growing in the sport. We'll talk about his height, age, stuff like that. So his weight class is normally cruiserweight. He is now fighting at heavyweight for this one. He has fought at heavyweight before. The Mike Tyson fight was at heavyweight. But Jake Paul's a cruiserweight. There is a difference. There are heavyweight, bridgerweight, cruiserweight. Bridgerweight is a new weight class. If you haven't heard of it, I don't blame you. It's a new weight class between cruiser and heavy. And yeah, I think that Jake Paul could make Bridger, but he's a cruiserweight. He's a cruiserweight at normal. He's weighing in at this fight 216 pounds, 0.6. He's still a big dude, but you're not as big as we're going to talk about the guy next. But age, 27. 27 years old, you're in your prime. You're coming into your prime. Height, he's 6'1", pretty tall. Reach, 76. So Jake Paul, yeah, for a cruiserweight, that's quite decent. For a heavyweight, it's certainly not. So the advantages are going to Anthony Joshua on this one, but, you know, fair play to Jake. I think you do got to realise that Jake Paul has got a pair of balls on him. He doesn't have to go in there with Anthony Joshua. He could have picked another, you know, MMA fighter with a big name. He was just supposed to be fighting Gervonta Davis, someone who's... Jake was the bigger guy going against the smaller guy. And then he took a 360 turn and went, you know what, after the fight fell through, he gone, you know what, I want to fight the biggest guy. And I want to be the smaller guy. He's got a pair of balls on him, if you like it or not. He's got a pair of balls on him, and you've got to respect him. Regardless if you lose, wins, draw, you've got to respect that Jake Paul has a pair of balls on him. But how does Jake win? These are some notes I've written down, my personal opinion. You can write in the comments if you like it or not, but these are what I've got. So, he needs to box/move. He needs to box. He has to box smart, and he has to consistently move. You don't want to sit there and trade with Joshua. You don't want to get hit by Joshua. You don't want to engage in that type of action at all if you're Jake Paul. You don't want it. You really don't want it. You know? So, that's one thing. Another one. Don't get hit by big shots. Simple. As Jake is the smaller guy, you don't want to be getting hit by Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua has got so many KOs. We'll get onto it in a minute. But he's a big guy, and Jake is not to the stature of the height of Anthony Joshua. Just don't get hit. You know, I've put be weird. Be weird in the fight. You're not at the level Anthony Joshua is. Anthony Joshua is normally, you know, he's fighting a boxer. And Jake Paul, I believe, is a boxer, but he's a newer boxer. Jake Paul, I can't say the word, fundamentally is not at that level yet. So he's a bit unpredictable. You know, he throws big overhands. He's a bit jumpy still. Use that to your advantage, because Anthony Joshua's going, what the hell is this guy doing? You know, and he could throw something what AJ doesn't see, because how weird and wild it is. You know, Anthony Joshua is normally fighting people like Usyk, you know, people like that, like the top guys. Body shots for Jake. I think the jab to the body will be a very good weapon for him, because we know Jake Paul's big, his main ability is his big overhand. He's knocked people out with it multiple times. I think if you jab to the body, Anthony Joshua starts slowly, like maybe dropping his hands a little bit, boom, you know. You've got that overhand there. And that's what my next one was, the big overhand. I've just explained it, I won't go over it again. But the last thing I've got is do not trade with Anthony Joshua. Don't trade with him. You're not going to win a gunfight with Anthony Joshua, because he will win 99% of the time. You know, the only other people who can trade with Joshua are people like Daniel Dubois, Dillian White when he was in his prime. People with a good chin. Jake's never properly been chin tested. So don't trade, don't test your chin out in this fight, because it's the wrong fight to do it in. But that's all my stuff for Jake Paul. You know, that's what I think. Let me know what you guys think on Jake on that. You know, do you think I've got it right? Do you think my opinion on Jake is right? Because I believe Jake Paul, he's a boxer. You don't have to like it, but you've got to acknowledge it. He's doing it for so long now. He has fought boxers. He has fought MMA fighters. He's fought a YouTuber basketball player. You know, but at the same time, name me Tyson Fury's first 6 opponents. You couldn't. You know, you couldn't name them. And as well, all these people Jake Paul has fought in his first 6-7 fights, they were all there to win. They thought they could win. While with most professional boxers, their first 10 fights are all against journeymen who get paid to lose. So just have that in your head, because it's a different perspective. You know, all these guys for Jake were there to win. They were there to put up a fight. Yes, they lost. Yes, some of them got knocked out or whatever. But for real boxers, their first 10 opponents are there to lose. You know, they get paid a good chunk of money to be a punching bag for the prospect to look good at. And yeah, they're not there to win. They're not there to win. They're there to lose. And Jake's first couple of opponents were all there to win, because they thought they could do something. But that's where I'm going to leave it on that. Let's go on to Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua. Well, you know, Anthony Joshua is one of the best heavyweights in the last 10 years. In, let's say, from now to when the heavyweight division started, in my personal opinion, Anthony Joshua is somewhere in that top 15 of best heavyweights of all time. I'm throwing a wild one out there, but I personally believe it is. And when you listen to why, you might agree with me. So, AJ, he is 28-4 with 25 big KOs. Only 4 of his wins come in. No, 3 of them. Sorry. 3 of his wins only go in the distance. I know one of them was Joseph Parker. I don't know what other fights were. I know Andy Ruiz that was 2. And I don't know what I think Jermaine Franklin. I think that Jermaine Franklin went to decision. So Franklin, Ruiz, and Parker. They were his only decision wins. Fair enough. But some of Anthony Joshua's wins. Dillian Whyte, at the time of fighting AJ, was 16-0. He beat Dillian Whyte. Great. Probably these two were the best guys in Britain. Anthony Joshua winning, being the best. But at second best was Dillian Whyte all the way. Dillian Whyte in his prime he could have been world champion. He never got the shot when he was in his prime. It's a shame, but Dillian Whyte was a problem. Charles Martin was world champion. Yes, we all know he should have been, but he was 23-0 at the time. Dominic Brazil, 17-0. There are 3 wins there where they were all undefeated, and AJ beat them. Then Vladimir Klitschko, 64-4. You know, it's Vladimir Klitschko. The Klitschko brothers are in that top 15 of best heavyweights of all time, especially Vladimir, but AJ beat him. Carlos Takam, 35-3. That's a good record. Takam being a very tough journey. I wouldn't say journey. Now he's a journeyman. Back then he weren't. He was a contender. Joseph Parker, 24-0. Another undefeated guy AJ beat. Alexander Povetkin, 34-1. Pretty much undefeated, you know. Krubat Pulev, 28-1. Andy Ruiz, sorry, I missed. I know he lost to Andy Ruiz, but then he beat him the second time. He beat him on a decision. But Andy, when he beat him, was, 32-1. Once again, basically undefeated. Jermaine Franklin, he was 21-1. Pretty much the same thing. Otto Walling, 26-1, only losing to Fury. And then for Francis Ngannou, that was probably his last win. And he was 0-1. So he's had one gimmick fight, if you want to call it. But how many undefeated guys or people with legit only one loss on AJ's resume? There were more guys on this list who I could have written down. But I kind of put it down to the ones with the best resume in that. There's AJ's resume, just in that alone, is goated. You know, how many former champions, title challengers are in this? There's loads. There's absolutely loads. And the fact he's got some big names on there, and the fact of Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz, Vladimir Klitschko, you know, there's some big wins there. And AJ's beating them all. And that he's had 4 losses. Obviously, one of them to Andy Ruiz. Okay, he redeemed that one. Alexander Usyk. Okay, you've lost to arguably the greatest heavyweight, the greatest fighter of our era, in this era, in Usyk. And you lost to Daniel Dubois last time out. But then even with those 4 losses, sorry, shall I say, he lost to Usyk twice. But you fought Usyk twice, Daniel Dubois, Andy Ruiz, and then his wins. Such an impressive resume. But we'll go on to his weight and that. But his weight, he's obviously a heavyweight. We all know that. Olympic gold medalist heavyweight, 243.4 pounds. There's a big weight difference compared to Jake. Jake's 216.6. There's a massive weight difference. AJ's 243 pounds. Jake's 216. You know, it's a bit scary. But, hey, Jake's taking the risk. Age, he is 37. I might be wrong, but 37, 38. AJ's getting nearer to the end of his career. But, all right, he can take these type of fights. He's done his time. He's fought the best of the best. He is one of the best guys we have had, you know. Height, he's 6'6". So compared to Jake 6'1", that's a big difference. Reach, 82, compared to Jake 76. That's a massive problem. Don't know how Jake Paul's going to box. We're going to have to see tonight. But yeah, some of his achievements. 2-time unified champion. He's captured pretty much all the belts. The first time around, well, actually twice, he captured all the belts apart from one, and that was the WBC. That was the only belt he didn't get from being undisputed. He was this close to being undisputed twice. You know, getting all the belts. Wilder was WBC champion at the time. Then he beat Andy for him when Andy beat him. So then Andy was unified. Then AJ beat him. Then Anthony Joshua was unified again. And I think Tyson Fury was the WBC then after beating Wilder. But yeah, 2-time unified heavyweight champion of the world. You were being this close to undisputed twice. But then Olympic gold medalist. Right there, his achievements are already big. But then how to win for Joshua. And it's very, very easy. I've written some things because I've had to say something about AJ. But we've got use your power and size. In my opinion, that's all I should have written. Well, I've written some more just to get some points out there. But use your power and size. You're 6'6", you're 30 pounds heavier than him. You've got the power. You've knocked out 25 of your 28 opponents. You've got power. He's big. He's tall. He's an absolute juggernaut. AJ should steamroll through Jake with his size and that. Walk him down. Just walk him down. Just bully him. That's all you got to do. Just bully him. You ain't got to do much. Just walk the smaller man down, you know. In any fight in the world, 90% of the time, the big guy should win if you just walk him down and batter him. That is what Anthony Joshua needs to do, and I think it will do. But combos as well. Keep throwing combinations at Jake. Don't let him breathe. You know, that's another point I put, but I've said it in this one. But yeah, you need to throw combos. Don't let him breathe. We saw in the Tommy Fury fight when Tommy was throwing combinations that Jake did not like 1, 2, 3, 4 punches coming at him. You know, most of Jake's fight have been people trying to throw a 1-2 dodge, then Jake comes in. Anthony Joshua's got the reach, he's got the size, got the power, got the experience. Everything in that for Anthony Joshua he should do. The combinations, 1-2 left hook. He's gonna hit Jake regardless. He's gonna do it. He's gonna hit Jake, and Jake won't be able to run away. You know, he will try. I believe Jake Paul will very much try and dance around him, but I don't see it happening. But yeah, but there are my points. There are my views on this fight. What are my predictions? So I'm going with a round 2 knockout Anthony Joshua. Let's be honest here. I personally want Jake Paul to win. I actually really want Jake Paul to win. I'm a Jake Paul fan. I think he's good for boxing. I've known of his YouTube. I hated him in YouTube, but since he's come over to boxing, I like it. I think he's the underdog. You always think he's going to lose, and then he ends up winning. Apart from obviously like the Mike Tyson fight and stuff, you knew Jake was going to win. But you always think, in this fight especially, Jake Paul was taking a massive risk, what he doesn't need to take. But he's taking it. He's doing it. So fair play to him. I want the underdog story for the stupid YouTuber to beat Anthony Joshua. I know that should be wrong. I should be supporting my fellow Englishman. But I just want Jake Paul to win. I just like the whole underdog story. I like how stupid Jake Paul is. I like that he takes the piss out of people. He takes the mick and all that. It's good for boxing. He's funny. He's an idiot. But yeah, I personally think that I would like Jake Paul to win. But reality is Anthony Joshua should go through him in a round or 2. You know, it should be round 1, round 2. Latest it could be is round 3. If Jake Paul survives 3 rounds of Anthony Joshua, it's a win for Jake. Because no one's expecting Jake to go that far. Everyone's expecting Anthony Joshua to steamroll him. I think that's going to be the case. I think Jake Paul is in for a rude awakening. But yeah, so that's my predictions. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I wake up in the morning and watch the fight and Jake Paul through a massive overhand or for whatever reason has dropped Anthony Joshua. But yeah, thank you for watching. It's a bit of a longer one, but this fight is just so big and we need to talk about it. But yeah, if you got this far into the video, please give a subscribe, a like, a comment. mainly, I'll be honest, the two things I always want are a comment, that is number one, and a subscribe. This year has been good. I'll be making an aftermath video on this one, but this year's been fun. First year of doing YouTube on this channel, and nearly got to 100 subs. So I'd love to end the year on 100 subs. I think I'm 83 at the minute. So if you could drop a follow, a subscribe, and even drop a comment. I like seeing people's comments, opinions. I'm always interacting when people do, and that. So yeah, but enjoy the show, guys, and we'll do a video. We'll rather do a instant reaction, or we'll review it tomorrow, in the evening time. But yeah, enjoy the show, guys.